Hello, my name is Gigi, and if you're watching this video, chances are you know me personally, excuse me, or you've seen some of my yoga videos or content. So, whatever reason you're here, thank you. And the intention of this video is to give a digital tour of a yoga class reflection journal that I've made for yoga teachers. So, what I'm holding up right now is the draft copy. I know you can't see it all that well, but gives you a little idea of how cute and high quality this creation is. We will look more thoroughly at the insides with the PDF version. But this yoga class reflection journal is aimed at yoga teachers. It's a tool that I've felt I've needed in my own life to reflect on every class, because within every class there is gold to be mined, there are learnings to be harvested. There's always a little flow or a way that I approached a pose that I think to myself, that's really cool. I'd like to remember that. I don't necessarily remember it. Often memory is stored in the body, but that was one of the initial reasons I wanted something that I could record the cool things that I do so that I can do them again in the future. And also to reflect on the not so cool things that happened. So things that I could do better. Maybe I set a cue in a particular way that wasn't very inclusive, or maybe the way that I instructed a certain flow or a pose wasn't that prepared, and it didn't prepare people anatomically to get the most out of that pose or even just be comfortable in that pose. Um, so yeah, there's so many reasons why I wanted this yoga journal, but it really aligns with the yogic principle of svadyaya. Hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is self-study. And it generally refers to the study of sacred texts and self-observation, self-reflection, using the self and awareness of the self as a platform and a container for learning. So what better container for learning than the classes that we're teaching, the students that we're already working with? To be completely transparent, I wasn't that satisfied with my first 200-hour training. I've done a lot of training ever since to, fill in those gaps and find my own journey of feeling qualified and being capable as a professional. But all of the real learning happened for me when I actually started teaching classes. I got knowledge and I got a certificate and all this stuff. But for me, it really started when I had a space up the front of the class and suddenly people trusted me enough to do what I told them. And I take that responsibility and duty with so much care and so much gratitude. So I really want to honor that as a teacher. And one way that I can do that, even if I'm not taking heaps of continuing education courses or whatever else we think we need to do to be a good yoga teacher, I have this journal. And it means that I am taking my profession seriously with integrity and that I'm always learning. Yeah, hope it can be a companion for you or for someone that you know. All right, so I'll give you a quick little look again at what we've got. On the inside, we have our journal prompts and a few pages, every 8 pages or so. There's, I've already written in it, but there's a page that helps you list favorite mantras or mudras, myths, different things there. We've got a Sanskrit glossary at the end. Yeah, we'll go through this in the PDF. Bear with me while I share. Okay, hopefully you can see my PDF version. So we have our lovely title page, our front cover, sorry. We've got our bear logo for now. I'm still working on personalizing it, but the bear is an important energy for me in how I want to move through my business, through my life, through serving the planet. The main symbolism that I want to speak to is that the bear is known as some form of a medicine creature. that it walks on earth as well as the spirit realm in kind of this bridge. Yeah, we could do a whole other video on that. Stay tuned. But we have our medicinal bear with our beautiful mandala / yantra symbol in the middle. We have a how to use this journal page. So this kind of just outlines the purpose of the journal and kind of speaks to not the limits of the journal, but it's been made to be simple. So obviously, if I was doing a yoga teacher training or a mentorship around developing ourselves as yoga teachers or developing our style or self-reflection as a yoga teacher, it would be a lot more thorough. But my intention with this journal was that it could be easily integrated into your routine. So after every class, you do 5 minutes of reflection, could even take 2 minutes if you want to be more thorough. There's pages in there to do that, to elaborate. You could take up to 20 minutes if you wanted, depends how you use it. But essentially, I want the prompts to work for you. So I've given specific prompts that I feel spoke to a pretty holistic sense of different aspects of a yoga class and different aspects of yoga teaching. In saying that, if you teach yin, maybe you will use the prompts differently to someone that's teaching vinyasa. Or if you teach both, you might use the prompts differently from class to class. So I just wanted to speak to the necessity to understand that some nuance has been lost. The example I use in the introduction is one of the prompts. In the prompt page is use of voice. So how did I use my voice? How do I feel about how I used my voice in the class? Did it enhance? Were there edgy bits? How do I feel about the voice? For me, that prompt also includes my use of silence. There wasn't room to add silence as a specific aspect of yoga teaching. So I've kind of put it under that umbrella prompt of use of voice. So my invitation is to be creative, be flexible, and also as precise as you need with the prompts, because sometimes having a guideline gives us a clear container to bring awareness to things we wouldn't necessarily be aware of. If we only do things the way we're used to, we're not necessarily going to see things that are hidden. So the prompts are also there to bring your attention to things you may not have thought about. But use them with flexibility, use them with precision. Consistency helps. The more you do it, the more likely you are to see something new. Next page is just suggestions of how to use after every yoga class. And yeah, it talks a bit about the actual content in the journal, but we'll look at that visually. This is an important part of the journal, which is a resource of the 8 limbs of yoga, so that we can keep going back and experiencing yoga as a holistic practice, not just asana. So reminding us of those 8 limbs. We have very brief kind of modern translations of the yamas and the niyamas, and they will be a resource for us to use in our reflect page. So this page is, the intention of this page is to reflect on how we are practicing different teachings of yoga and how we're bringing that into our life. It's not just about bringing it into our classes. How are we bringing it into our life? What aspects of yoga are you currently inspired by? Maybe you're inspired by satya, truth, or an integrity. Which teachings are you practicing in your life? So maybe you're inspired by satya, but you realize that actually I could be a lot more honest in different areas of my life. But how do I do that with ahimsa? So this is already kind of sparking a dialogue, an inner dialogue, an inner reflection. What teachings am I practicing less? So maybe you'd be like, you know what? Saucha is not working for me. I have been having bare feet and then going straight onto my mat. And now I've stained my mat and it's not as pleasant to practice. Something like that. I speak from experience. How can I bring the teachings of yoga into my broader life? So this page occurs every 8 classes, so that you're class reflecting, and then at the end of that cycle, you get to reflect on your life and your character. Then we have these pages, once again, after every 8 classes. This one is for recording your favorite meditations. So the other reason I wanted to create this journal is so that you, as a yoga teacher, have a resource at the end of it. that you can use for future classes. So not only do you learn by going through every single page, you develop as a yoga teacher, you get more clear about your style or what your strengths are, what you like to do. You get to write down different flows that you like, et cetera, et cetera. But you get to keep it at the end. And then in the future, you can look back and have a set of meditations, a Sanskrit glossary, a set of mantras. It's a collected work of you. What is the collected work of you? You can look in this journal and you already have a resource there for your future teaching. Finally, coming to our first prompt page. So yoga class could be yin, restorative, vinyasa, hatha, or yoga for the elderly. And then we have some prompts, what worked well, anything you do differently, quick reflection. Once again, you can elaborate on all these prompts on the anything else page. So you don't have to feel confined to those tiny spaces. But these prompts here are just an overview of the various aspects that you might consider in assessing yourself, in reflecting on your strengths, areas of development, and different aspects that create a strong container in a yoga class. So your sequence and your cueing could be amazing, but if you don't pay any attention to the students and create those connections, or even look at them while you're teaching, it's going to lack something. Whereas if equally, if you used music or you didn't, that might bring a different energy to a class. Or maybe you learn, actually, that music had way too much melody in it for a restorative class. I feel that students' minds are way too activated. So, as I say in the introduction, this list of prompts isn't meant to be a criteria of everything to include. You might just focus on 3 and have an amazing container of a class where everyone feels held and there was enough quality there that you felt like it was a great class. But it's just helping you to scan through the different elements that can make a good yoga class. So no pressure to include all of these, but they're really helpful to kind of assess yourself. Then we have a little space for any flows or approaches to a pose that you really liked and you want to remember for next time. Maybe you set a particular cue and you were like, wow, that was great. Or a student came up and gave you feedback and they were like, when you said da 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 da, I wanted to cry. Make note of these things. And then you can have your takeaways for next time. And at the bottom of every page, I'm so proud of this because it took a long time. There are quotes. I sifted through some of my favorite yoga books to get these quotes. They're really inspiring and once again touch on the holistic nature of yoga. I hope you're as inspired by them as I am. So they just offer a little bit of inspiration. So the anything else page, that's to write your sequences, that's to elaborate on the prompts. Maybe you want to draw pictures. Maybe you want to put more mantras. That is freestyle time for you. The reason I chose anything else as a prompt is because I kind of learned an equivalent of it in a coaching training, which is when people are sharing and they're kind of setting up the context and explaining themselves to you or explaining how they feel. As the receiver of that, you can go, and what else? And kind of prompt them to continue. And it's not in like a pressure way, but it just helps get out anything that might be left. It may not be necessarily relevant directly, but they go, you know what? There's something else I didn't say. This thing really annoyed me the other day, and I think that's contributing to blah, blah, blah. Anything else just is an opportunity for you to go, what else is here? What's alive in this space? What does the reflection bring up for you? Because that's also part of the process. It doesn't have to be directly related to the prompts, but it also might be. So we've got them, la, la, la. As I said, I believe there's 24 classes in there or prompt pages, and every 8 classes, which should be coming up soon. There we go. We have an opportunity to reflect. So how are you going with the principles of yoga? And here we have favorite myths. So if you're like, I actually don't know any myths, great opportunity to go down to the wealth of knowledge and symbolism in the Hindu pantheon, and maybe that can inform your classes or your relationship to yoga somehow. Or, you read the Bhagavad Gita and you take a section from that and you can use that as a way to translate the yoga teachings to people through a story. Storytellings are beautiful and can be overused, but it can also be totally forgotten about in how we teach yoga. And cultures used to transmit knowledge through story primarily. So I find that really beautiful to bring back in if there's myths that connect to you. La 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 la. So same thing, wanted it to be simple. And then at the end, we have our Sanskrit glossary, cute little lotus down there. And yeah, that's an opportunity for you to maybe note mantras or pose names that are particularly potent for you or that you just keep forgetting. You might even talk about Om, as in the AUM version, which aligns with the Trimurti, the creation gods, the cycle of creation, or the states of consciousness. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and explore it. I'll probably make a YouTube video on it soon. You can learn a lot in the Mandukya Upanishad. That is the Upanishad that speaks about the meaning of Om. What is Om? Highly recommend. Sanskrit glossary. And then at the end, we have a opportunity to take stock of what you've learned, what you're proud of, and from this reflection experience, what your next step is and what your hopes are. So my hope is that these prompts can help you kind of integrate everything that you've learned through this reflection process. And by the end of the 24 classes, maybe you feel that your next step is, I don't feel strong in anatomy, so I'm going to seek a course. Or my next step is, I feel like I have something really special to offer and I'm getting good feedback. I'm ready to start offering workshops. And your hopes, that's just connecting you to your purpose, to your vision. Relaying these things is like moving water over rock over time, just creating that etch in physical reality through your mental thoughts, through your intention, and just to feel great about yourself. Yeah. I think that's all there is to share other than the Om Tat Sat and little lotus final page. Obviously, it looks a lot prettier in the actual physical version. Let me stop the share. Okay. So once again, give you a little look at the cute notebook. It might look slightly different. I think the bear is going to be slightly different just for some formatting reasons. And maybe the title will be different too. On the back, we've got a little blurb with kind of like contents so that people in a shop can actually know what's inside before they go to town on the inside. But yeah, that's the yoga class reflection journal for the dedicated yoga teacher. And I say dedicated because yoga is a lifelong practice, as is anything that we give our hearts and soul to. And you're not meant to know it all. You're not meant to know everything. You're not meant to be perfect. But this is a companion that can, help you harvest as much as you can and get the gold from the good and the less pleasant experiences, because we need both to grow and we need both to be authentic as humans, but also as yoga teachers. And that might be something you start reflecting on as well. I think that's it. If you'd like to buy the journal, the link will be in the description. At the moment, it's currently like available for sale on a big digital bookstore called Lulu. That will be the link below in the description. Soon it will be available for global distribution. So that'll be other providers like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and things like that. I'm just getting the proof copy ready and blah, blah, blah. I have to do an approval process. So soon it will be available kind of everywhere. And you can always message me privately or by email. It will be on my website as well, but it will probably go to the Lulu bookstore at this point. So if for whatever reason you can't get it somehow, message me. I'm trying to keep the price low, but obviously need to keep it a little bit enough, have to keep it so that it can be sustainable, which can be hard. But yeah, I'm hoping to make it as accessible as possible. So yeah, that's me. Thank you so much for joining. That is the tour of the Yoga Class Reflection Journal.